What is up, you guys? I just got back from seeing Maggie Gyllenhaal's latest film, The Bride, starring Jessie Buckley and Christian Bale. Let's talk about it. This movie was one of my most anticipated movies of the year. I was super excited for this, and I gotta admit, watching this coming out of the theater, I am slightly disappointed with this. Now, I'm gonna keep this spoiler free because I definitely want you guys to go into this with not knowing anything. I gotta admit, I'm so confused that I don't even think I can spoil the movie. So, starting off with the positives, because I am coming out of this leaning more positively than I am negatively. I think that this movie is phenomenal when it comes to its acting abilities. Jessie Buckley is a phenomenal actress. She's coming right off of Hamnet, and Christian Bale is also really good as Frankenstein. And I think their dynamic between the whole film, seeing them together whenever they're on screen together, is really entertaining and really fun, and probably the best parts of the film. And I will say, I think the visuals of this movie is awesome. Like, it looks visually stunning. It looks very visually appealing. And I think there are moments in this film that are very bold and take swings that are very risky to take. And I think for the most part, I would say 55% of them succeed, but the 45% just fall flat and are confusing. Like, for me, the opening of this movie was so random and very bold to open up the film with, but it left me confused because there was a question here where I didn't really understand what was going on, and it left me feeling, is this real? Like, is this actually going on throughout the film? And it's almost breaking the fourth wall in a way that I don't understand it at all. And I went and saw this with my girlfriend, and she loved the film, but she even had questions with it saying, yeah, I don't really understand how that made sense, but I was vibing with it. And I guess you can just go into it going, all right, you know what, whatever, that's just happening. Let's just proceed with it. But there is a bunch of different things going on throughout this film, and I think the best part about it is when we get to Christian Bale and Jessie Buckley as Frankenstein and the Bride. Whenever they're together, when seeing their relationship form from the start to the end is really awesome seeing that. But then there's so many like scenes in between, like we got this whole detective storyline, and I don't know, the detectives really didn't do much for me. There's kind of some history between the detectives and the bride, and they don't really show it. They kind of just tell, and I feel like a lot of this film, for the majority of this film, is a lot of telling and not showing instead of show don't tell. There's a few moments in here where they do show don't tell, but I don't think they really do it successfully. There are a few moments that I really like, such as this whole sequence in a ballroom, the ballroom sequence. It's awesome. That's probably the scene that they show most in the trailer. It's the scene most of the people are talking about, and there's a lot of nods to other Frankenstein projects like Young Frankenstein, which I thought was awesome, and I love that whole sequence. And a lot of these sequences are similar to Joker 2, which Joker 2 I disliked a lot. I thought that movie didn't do anything good, except for having some of the musical aspects. I did enjoy that, and I liked some of the like courtroom scenes and stuff, but Joker 2 flopped for me, unfortunately. This is a better version of Joker 2, in my opinion. There are sequences where there's like these musical sequences, and you see Frankenstein. He just loves movies. He wants to be in this romance where he's on screen and he's with the wife and like they're dancing together and having a romance. And there are sequences where they're doing that, and it works for me. I really like that. And whenever we get to see that, I think it's cute. I think it's really good and loving. But I don't necessarily love the whole Bonnie and Clyde story arc of this movie. Because this movie is like taking Joker 2, Bonnie and Clyde, and Frankenstein and mushing it together. And I think over time it kind of jumbles in between, not knowing which one it wants to be. And I think this movie definitely had a ton of reshoots, rewrites, script changes, where some of the sequences you're like, wait, you're not ever going to explain that? Like, there's a part where, for example, there's a light bulb that's broken, and you think it's a dream sequence, and then all of a sudden they say, hey, the light's broken. And then you're like, wait, was that actually happening or not? And that happens a lot throughout the film. And it's moments like that where I'm like, it takes me out of it. And I'm just like, this doesn't make sense to me. I'm not getting it. But with all those negatives, like I said, there's tons to like about this movie, like the acting abilities, the visual style. But I think that's really all it is. Because I think the worst part about this movie is the plot. And you can't be a good movie without a good plot. By the end of the film, they try to be very dramatic and they try to get your heartstrings. I felt it because there is a little bit of shock value throughout this film that kind of catches you off guard. But I wish that we got to explore things more within the story, within the context, because then there's this whole like mafia. Like there's like a big mafia part of this film because this movie takes place in the 1930s in Chicago, so there's obviously a big mafia. And with this mafia side plot, they establish it early on in the beginning of the film, but then it kind of takes a pause all the way till the end. And I wish that we got to experience that more or had more of the mafia because there was really cool moments with the mob. They just didn't really explore it enough for me to care. Like I feel like they could have made the mob a big part of the movie, but it's so sidelined and there's too much stuff going on with this movie where there's a revolution happening. There's things happening that are so impactful that really work for the film, like this romance, this revolution of women's rights, this mob story, this detective story, where it's all interlinking, but it's not really working well. I think one of the biggest problems, again, like I said, is the plot, but it's also the way this movie flows. There's no good flow throughout it. There's good sequences and good moments, but there's like it'll be like really boring. Oh, good. Oh, really, really, really boring. Good, boring, boring. Oh, shocking, boring. So I'm not quite sure really what else to say for this movie except that I think this really is disappointing. It could have been super good. So here are my overall thoughts, and I'm giving this movie a 60 out of 100. I do think that what saves this movie is the acting abilities from Jessie Buckley and Christian Bale and some of the visual shots that Maggie Gyllenhaal works behind the camera. But a lot of what happens within this story and just the way this story goes about doesn't work. It just kind of falls apart. It makes you question things of what's going on, what is reality, and just has a psychological question, which psychological questions in films like The Truman Show, The Matrix, are great when you can do them right. But when you don't do them right and they're for the wrong reasons, you get stuff like this and it's just disappointing and questioning what's going on. So yeah, that's my thoughts on The Bride. Let me know what you guys thought on The Bride. Was it good? Was it bad? What did you think on it? I'm seeing a lot of mixed reviews. People are saying it's either really good or really bad. I'm more neutral on the film. Like I said, I'm leaning more positively, mainly because of Jessie Buckley and Christian Bale. I thought they were phenomenal. But with all that being said, if you like today's video, make sure you like it. If you really like it, make sure you subscribe. And if you want to see future videos like this, make sure you ring the bell in the description down below. With all that being said, movie nerd out. Peace.